My name is Cheyenne.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth.
My name is Ariel.
Hi, my name is Jackie.
My name is Kylene.
My name is Michaela.
My name is Brittany.
I'm Jessie and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Danae.
I'm Liliana Rogers and I'm 11 and I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome when I was 10 years old.
I'm 21 now. I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome when I was just 13 years old.
We think I've had it my whole life.
I was 18 and just started my second semester of college.
And I had just gotten married.
I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome in 2015 after about 8 years of progressing symptoms.
Mast cells are a type of immune cell found in the connective tissues. Its role is to protect the body against pathogens, injury, or triggers like an allergen. There are multiple types of mast cell disorders. One is called systemic mastocytosis, where there is an overabundance of mast cells in the body. And then there is one called mast cell activation syndrome. In mast cell activation syndrome, there is a normal number of mast cells that behave badly. Regardless of the type of mast cell disease, the mast cells release excessive chemical mediators like histamine, prostaglandins, cytokines. And those chemical mediators, there are over 200 of them, that is what makes us sick, causing symptoms from anaphylaxis to GI symptoms, cardiac, seizures, tremors. For those with mast cell disorders, numerous triggers cause their mast cells to degranulate.
My worst symptom from this disease would have to be anaphylaxis. It's a life-threatening allergic reaction.
I really couldn't leave my house alone because scents and foods and humidity and weather changes, those all caused me to go into anaphylaxis.
Mast cell activation disorder has caused major disruptions in my life.
I spent 112 days in the hospital.
I spent over 122 days in the hospital.
In the year of 2015, I spent 8 months out of that year in the hospital.
About 5 months, I went through over 50 EpiPens. I was in and out of the hospital. It felt like a revolving door.
Mast cell has taken a lot from me.
I lost my independence.
My husband is my caregiver.
I went from living in my own apartment as an EMT to having to move back home with my parents, to not being able to hold down a job.
I got to where I barely can leave the house because I react to everything and nothing.
Mast cell has impacted my life by not being able to go outside because of all of my reactions, along with not being able to eat food.
I had a full ride to college. I had to defer my scholarship to the next term, and then that next term got there and I was still sitting in the hospital because the doctors couldn't figure out what to do with me and how to prevent me from going into such severe reactions.
I'm grateful because I'm able to better control my mast cell disease with the use of IV Benadryl at home.
I have been using IV Benadryl regularly for the last 4 years. And in the last 3 years, I've been on the treatment known as the continuous diphenhydramine infusion, where small amounts of Benadryl are infused every second of every day through the central line in my chest. As you can see, I'm connected to a lot of different things right now, and that is why all that racket over here.
I first started using IV Benadryl about 2 years ago.
I have been on the continuous diphenhydramine infusion since May 2017.
In December of 2017, so almost a year now, I was started on continuous diphenhydramine infusion.
Benadryl is how I basically don't starve to death. I was going into anaphylaxis over anything I put into my body, nutrition-wise, whether through my feeding tube or eating orally.
I had been struggling with rapidly progressing GI symptoms, inflammation, pain, intestinal dysmotility, malabsorption. Basically, what that meant was my liquid compounded Benadryl that I used down my J tube for severe reactions stopped working. I wasn't absorbing it.
All the severe cases, we need IV access. It's not, we can't just go into a CVS and expect that, okay, well, this Benadryl pill will help immediately.
Before I was on the Benadryl drip, I was in pain every single day. And when I was awake and when I was sleeping, I was crying in pain.
I have been into full respiratory arrest 3 times. I've been intubated as well those 3 times.
I couldn't eat. I'm on a feeding tube. I couldn't go places. I couldn't see my friends.
I couldn't go more than one day without using an EpiPen.
Having access to IV Benadryl has not only improved my quality of life, it saved my life.
Once I began the continuous diphenhydramine infusion, my life definitely isn't perfect, but it's a far cry from what it was living in the hospital for months on end.
Benadryl has really helped me. I've been able to get out of bed. I've been able to do stuff. I've been able to walk by myself.
Since starting it in December, I have spent 3 total days in the hospital. I have been able to apply for new jobs, and I've just accepted a new position in Utah as a 911 dispatcher.
I've been able to return to school after an extended medical leave and finish my PhD. I've been able to travel with my family, return to activities and sports that I love.
I can eat.
The CDAI not only saved my life in terms of medically, but also socially, psychologically, and allowed me to live outside of the hospital for the first time in months.
I did go from using upwards of 10 EpiPens a week to using maybe 2 EpiPens a month. Unless you deal with that and unless you are directly affected by that, you don't understand the gravity that CDI, like how much it has saved my life.
I would have never guessed that I would be in this position where I would need IV Benadryl to live.
Yeah, when I first heard about the shortage of Benadryl, it was one of those things that I heard in passing from somebody.
I thought that it couldn't happen to me. I had logged on to Facebook, is how I found out, and had read someone's thread that one person turned into 2, and 2 turned into 3, and 3 turned into umpteen.
The shortage has already impacted so many individuals, including myself.
My legs swelled up pretty badly ever since the shortage, and I can't really walk as well anymore.
Because of it, I ended up in ICU on a ventilator. I lost my best friend because she used, at 37, she ended up having to use several EpiPens and had a heart attack because she had no access to IV Benadryl.
About a month into the shortage, my pharmacy called me up on the phone and told me the news personally, and all of my thoughts about how this wasn't going to happen to me were proven wrong at that point.
I called my doctor at USC, so she also called 3 of my local hospitals in Las Vegas, and none of them had Benadryl.
I was recently hospitalized due to a mast cell flare, and the hospital was actually so short with the IV Benadryl that I had to help supply my own.
That's why when I heard about the IV Benadryl shortage, my first thought was, am I going to lose everything again? Is all the progress that I've made and fought to regain going to disappear in a matter of weeks?
I was really scared and pretty terrified.
Because there's already a shortage of EpiPens, and now there's a shortage of IV Benadryl.
That's scary in itself, but like I said, it's all about trying to save our lives and trying to push the pain away so we can have a life.
And my family and I were all just stressed, and it's not as easy to just find whatever IV Benadryl because I'm brand specific. I can only tolerate one brand due to the inactive ingredients in another. So while the home health pharmacy was able to get a hold of some IV Benadryl, it wasn't the kind that I was able to tolerate. I have enough now for a few more weeks of my safe kind that we borrowed from the local hospital, but now all of the hospitals are out around my area, and we don't know what we are going to do once my supply runs out if this shortage is not resolved in a timely manner.
When I heard about the shortage, I was terrified because I'm having surgery next week, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have Benadryl when I get back home.
It's so hard to know that we're going to keep struggling. It's so hard to know that I was abandoned by pharmaceutical companies because, for whatever reason, they decided to stop manufacturing Benadryl. The fact that hospitals were not warned of this situation, the fact that the FDA didn't even have it listed as Benadryl is on a shortage until the end of September. This isn't okay.
It's been kind of frustrating because the companies say that, oh, we'll have restarted manufacturing then. And then that day gets here and then it's pushed back even more.
This has been going on for months, and I don't understand why it's taking this long and why I have to fear over something that's Benadryl. I'm used to fearing going out in public and, somebody having perfume on, or, smelling an allergen, and I prepare for that. I can prepare for that. I have the means I need to be able to get away from that. But I don't have the means to prepare for no Benadryl.
Patients are dying. Patients like me who depend on Benadryl are we're dying.
We're more than just a dollar sign. These are lives.
Well, I've been fortunate enough that my pharmacy has been able to hold me over through this. We don't know how much longer that can happen.
I was one of the lucky ones that found a compounding pharmacy that will take the powder of the diphenhydramine powder or whatever, and they mix it into bags for me. These bags are not covered by insurance. I have to use one bag a day, and it's $65 a bag. As a patient, I will be broke in 2 weeks, and I will not be able to afford to keep myself alive anymore.
I've been grateful and lucky that I've had some, but now that it's getting to the point of I don't know how much longer I'm going to have. If I were to unhook myself, I only get a couple minutes before I start going to severe reactions again, and that compromise my airway.
CDI is the only medicine that is able to keep me stable and be able to function better.
The shortage needs to be corrected, not just for me, but for so many people who rely on IV Benadryl and hospitals as well.
As the more time goes on, the more extensive the shortage gets and the more hospitals that run out. And IV Benadryl is not just used for mast cell patients. It's used for patients who have regular allergic reactions in the hospital, those who are undergoing surgery or using it for chronic nausea, or chemo patients. The list goes on.
This doesn't just affect us. It affects our caregivers, the people that we love.
IV Benadryl hasn't just kept me alive, it's allowed me to live. Those of us who rely on IV Benadryl shouldn't have to be afraid of losing our lives or our chance to live because of a shortage with no explanation as to why it's happening.
It's just been really, really tough to kind of get by when you have so many different complex needs, but then on top of it, there's just drug companies or manufacturers that don't really understand, I guess, patient stories.
If pharmaceutical companies are watching this, that you guys see what this shortage has done to me and so many others.
We need more help, and you guys are our help. We wish we didn't have to depend on you to help us through this, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But if you could just help us, please with this.
My quality of life is greatly improved with the IV Benadryl, and I hope that we find a way to end the shortage soon.
While I'm not the epitome of health by any stretch of the imagination, having access to IV Benadryl gave me hope for a quality of life, and now that these drug companies are revoking our access to life-saving medications, they're also taking that hope away from patients like me. My hope for this video is just to show how imperative it is that we as patients have access to our life-saving medications, and I appreciate people taking the time to watch.